Welcome back to the OurView Podcast. On today's episode, I welcome my guest, Paul Amadeus Lane. Paul is an accessibility consultant, TV and radio personality, a brand ambassador, and a keynote speaker. Join our conversation as we discuss what ableism means to us and the importance of accessibility in the world of technology and gaming. So I would like to welcome everyone back to another episode of the OurView Podcast, where we aim to raise awareness, educate, and change the tone of conversation about disabilities. Today, my guest is Paul Amadeus Lane, and I love your name. It just, it's so great. So Paul, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for your time today, and I am looking forward to our conversation.
Well, King Arthur, thank you for allowing me to be in your court with the Knights of the Round Table, and I'm enjoying being with you, my friend.
Yes, it's so great to meet you virtually, as I have been saying to all of my guests, because that's the only way I've been meeting them since I started the podcast. And it's great to connect with you, and looking forward to our conversation today. So for our listeners, could you introduce yourself and tell us who is Paul Amadeus Lane?
Wow. In a nutshell, I'm just a pretty weird guy who's very creative. I was involved in an automobile accident a little over 28 years ago. So I just celebrated my 28th year of my accident and being a wheelchair user. And I'm in the media world. That's what I do for a profession, as well as accessibility consulting for the video gaming industry and the tech industry as a whole. I host several shows, entertainment show, a tech show. I do the hosting for the podcast for United on Wheels. I also sit on the United Spinal Association Tech Access Group. I'm sure there's some other things, but I try not to think about it so much, because if I do, I get scared and get overwhelmed. But I'm married. Been married to my wife Ray. It's been 25 years. Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
25 years. And I live in Southern California. I love video gaming. I love creating. I love music. And that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. So you mentioned that you were in an automobile accident, and you incurred a spinal cord injury. Can you talk about what that means for you, how that spinal cord injury impacts your life?
It was really crazy. I became a quad. I'm a 2'6", 7 quad functional level, around 6 area, 5.5 area functionality. And it started off weird because, I think all of our mindset, especially ones who have had a disability because of an accident and not being born, is that we always feel we're going to get better. We're going to snap out. We hear of like miraculous recoveries, such as like when NFL player Dennis Berg, when he regained his most of his functions and things like that. You feel that that's going to be you, but you find out right away that it's a good chance it's not going to be you statistically. And then you have to learn how to accept, but also reinvent yourself. And if you don't do that at a very quickly, you can take yourself down a downward spiral that you won't want to do anything. You won't want to socialize. You won't want to live. You just want to stay into your feelings. And that's what happened to me in the beginning. I had to I had to reach that point where I had to say, okay, this is what it is.
Hmm.
I'm gonna be the best at what I can be in my situation. And of course, I still have ups and downs. We all do. I mean, mood swings is human. We all have them. Some good days and bad days. But it was weird at first. But I learned how to adapt and make the best out of it.
Yeah, that's so true. Because even for myself, I've had my disability all my life. I was born with spina bifida, and like you said, we all have ups and downs and good days and bad days, and sometimes the bad days are really bad, and you just you don't you you want to be by yourself and isolate yourself, but uh at the same time, that's not good, and you do have to I think it's good to allow yourself that time, but then also make sure you don't stay there too long, and snap out of it, and just surround yourself with good people, and that will encourage you, and allow you space to have that time, but then also again tell you, like, okay, like it's time we start moving, move through this, and let's keep it moving, and get back to who they know that you can be as a person. So it's interesting to hear the progression of when you were first injured, and to now, how you like you said, you wanted to just be alone, and kind of by yourself, and just getting out of that and working through that, and it's a continuous thing. I think for sure for me, it's it's a daily struggle to make sure that you keep moving, and try to stay as positive as possible. So when you introduced yourself, you mentioned a lot of great, cool things that you do, um, that I am not. That's just not my my gifts are not in those areas. So can you talk about you're a radio host, correct? So how did you become interested in radio and broadcasting? And I'm brand new to this podcast thing. That's about as close as I'm probably going to get to radio. And I just started in June of 2020, so I'm still learning a whole lot. And but I find it fascinating for people that are in that field. So can you just talk about how you became interested in radio and broadcasting in general?
And sure thing. It's either a gift or a curse, right? So
Yeah.
I'll look at it as a gift. But
Yes.
it was interesting. The year was 2000. I had a friend of mine who started doing a radio show, and I was like, "Yo, how did you get on the radio? What did you do?" And he said, "You know what? I found this one radio station that sold time, and I created my show." And I was like, "You know what? I want to do that."
Wow.
So what I did was I created a show called Meeting the Challenge, and it was centered towards our community, the disabled community, and meeting challenges as a whole. So I had that for about 3 or 4 years, but it got expensive to do things like that. So I decided, I said, you know what, I want to go to school so I don't have to pay to be on the radio. I want to go to school so I can get paid, to be on the radio and work in the media field. So I went
Yes.
to the Academy of Radio and TV Broadcasting in 2006, and the journey almost never started. I remember meeting with the ones who run the school, the administrators, and they were like, "I don't know if this is for you because there's not a lot of people getting hired working in the radio or the television field who are in wheelchairs." So basically, they were telling me I was wasting my money, and I was like, "Well, you know what? I don't mind. Just give me a chance." They were like, "Well, not only that, there's one segment of the curriculum you're gonna fail because your fingers don't work. You won't be able to splice tape." So this is how far back it was. They were still splicing tape, but it got phased out right after that. But so they were like, "This is not for you." So I was like, "All right, maybe it's not." But I had some tragic turn of events that happened around the 2005, 2006 year, where I was like, I hit rock bottom in my life. I was like, what am I gonna do? And I said, you know what, let me contact that school again. And I'm gonna tell them it ain't no way in the world you're gonna deny me being in the school, because if you do, we'll have some problems. So I went up there, talked with them, and they accepted me in the school. And I learned all the ins and outs of the radio industry, um, television industry, from management to production to promotions. It taught us the whole gambit of radio. Then came that time when I had to go to that module that they said that I was going to fail because of my disability. Well, I failed, but this is the trip thing about it. I had my grade point average so high that even failing that module, I still graduated with honors. So it was one of those things that when I got there in that school, I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to succeed. I am going to break the mold when it comes to this. And then I graduated, and now the real work happened, trying to get a job.
Right.
I was turned down because of the chair. They would never tell me that because of being a federal license they have to have at stations, and they would lose that for discrimination against this disabled person. But when I didn't get hired, I was dejected. I was like, well, maybe I won't work in this industry. So I started to put into practice. I put it into place, doing my own thing, doing my online radio. And this is when it came out around that time, right when I was just about to get my playlist together and everything. My placement director at the school called and said, hey, CBS Radio has an opening for a news production assistant at their station, KFWB. That's one of the largest news stations in LA. So I was like, all right, I'll go anyway. So I went there, filled out the application. The guy came down, gave me the application. Remember, I'm a quad, so I can't scribble or anything. So gave me the application. I was so happy that my wife went with me, because I almost told her to leave and I'll call her when I'm ready to get picked up from my interview, but she stayed there. I'm so glad she stayed there. That's another reason why she was the right person to marry. She stayed there. And when I got the application, I said, how am I going to fill this out? So I told the receptionist, I had to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. So I rolled down to my car, told my wife, can you please fill this out? She filled out the application so fast. I zipped back up the elevator, went in the room, and the manager was just like, where did you go? I said, I had to go to the bathroom. I kind of had some rumbles in the jungle, so I had to get to the situation. But to make a long story short, I got hired. They hired me there. And that really started my career getting paid in the radio business.
That's really great. And I love a lot of the parts that you talked about where, it's such a shame because it happens to a lot of people with disabilities where they count you out before they even give you a chance. And, telling you from the door, well, you're going to get to this one module and you're going to fail. Even if you were, at least let you do it. That's the thing where, again, my mission is to change this tone of conversation where, because they see you in what they perceive as a particular situation, it's like, oh no, you can't do it because of this. Don't say that to people. That is like, it's so wrong to say it to people. And then, as you mentioned too, just thinking that, you possibly wouldn't get a job because of the chair and being denied jobs because of the chair. But of course, like you said, they can't tell you that. They can't they can't say that out loud because of the repercussions that exist because of discrimination. And it's such a shame because the work that you do and the work that other people do with disabilities, like the talent that we have is needs to be shown and showcased, but we're often denied these opportunities before we are even given a chance to ask for a reasonable accommodation where, it would help us make the job easier for us. So it's a great story that you were able to persevere through. And I love that you said that even though you failed that module, you still had a grade point average that was so high, you still were able to finish. Like,
Yeah,
so that is.
I wasn't going to be denied, Arthur. You know, it's like I've
Hmm.
always had that type of attitude ever since I was younger. Like when I wanted something, you know, and not doing anything nefarious to get things, but when I wanted something, I'm not going to be denied. You know, I'm going to keep going. You know, I'm just going to
That's right.
just me, just me.
Yep. And that's, I think as, certain human beings, regardless of disability diagnosis or not, some people are just built that way. Like, okay, yeah, you can tell me no. You can try to tell me no or tell me I can't do something, but yeah, I'll show you how I can do it. And I'll show you how, although I might have messed up this one time with something, I'll come back and I'll come back 10 times stronger and I'll make it happen. Like let's do this. Let's make it happen.
You know,
I could definitely.
my mom always told me, hard head makes it soft behind. So you knew what kind of kid I was. I was always hard headed. So I still got that trait. So
But it works, in situations like that. It works and it pays off for you. So definitely I've heard that saying as well. One other thing that you mentioned that was really really great and interested me was that your interest in the technology and accessibility of technology products and in the video gaming world. I've never been a gamer. I've never been interested in it. Growing up, I grew up in the 80s, so that was like the Nintendo era and the Sega Genesis in the early 90s. My cousins always had those those game things, and with Mario and then Sonic with the Sega Genesis. Yeah, and I would love to play it whenever I went to visit their house or something like that. But I've never been interested in the gaming world. So how did you become interested in that, and can you talk about the work that you do as far as helping companies with accessibility features of products and the gaming consoles and all of that?
you know, I've always loved video gaming. You know, from the little Mattel games we used to have growing up to like you said, Super NES,
Hmm.
Atari. You know, I've always been involved with them. And um, after my accident, it took me a time to get back to gaming because I thought I couldn't game.
Hmm.
So when I found out that I would be able to game, using like different aspects of my body instead of my fingers, I can use my chin, I can use my lip and everything.
Hmm.
I It's like I lost a good friend that I haven't seen in a while. Something was missing and I found it. So when I got into the broadcast industry, I would cover different events like CES, E3, all these different events. And E3 is the big gaming convention, and CES is the big electronics convention that's in Las Vegas every year. And I would cover these different events. And when I would interview folks at the event, I would always ask them, well, can people who are disabled use this kit? I'd always bring that into the conversation, even though it wasn't an interview that was structured around accessibility or inclusion. I always made it a point to bring that up, when I was interviewing ones. And
Hmm.
based on conversations that I had with ones and my interactions with them, people would reach out to me and say, "Hey, Paul, what do you think about this? What we're making? You think somebody with a disability can use this?" And from that, it just parlayed into me working with companies. I work closely with Sony PlayStation on some accessibility things that they have done um, with their big gaming uh, developer, Naughty Dog. I work
Hmm.
closely with them. I was part of an award-winning game that won the first um, accessibility award at the Gaming Awards this past year. Um,
Wow.
there's some other things on the horizon that, due to NDAs, I can't talk about, but
Hmm.
it's just being able to use my experience as someone who was an able-bodied gamer to now a disabled gamer. I think that gives me a fresh perspective at looking at things like, how would a person approach this? And I always, whenever I work on a new project, I always think of ones who have less abilities than what I have. You know, it works for me, but what about the next person? What about the person who is a full quad, who can only move their neck and have to use like a bite stick to play video games? So I'm
Mhm.
always thinking of that, and even like in the tech world, whenever I help tech companies as well too. And one thing that I've noticed, Arthur, is that when we create things in the tech world or the video game industry, make it easy for our community to play, it makes it easier for all communities to play easy too. You know, I was looking at a commercial and before you and I talked, this one furniture company had this one desk that was an elevated desk that you can bring up and bring down. And I'm like, they got that from our community right there. And now
Mhm.
everybody is using that technology. So
Right.
what I'm trying to do is help companies and organizations to see, when you think of us, you think of everyone, because everyone wants things to be easier. So when they
Mhm.
start looking at us, I know there's a phrase, nothing without us, about us, but my phrase is nothing for us without us, meaning we need to have that input. We need to give you our feedback. We need to be a part of research and development so that you represent our community 100%, not what you think that we need, not what you think that we want, but have us be a part of the decision process and sharing our input right at the beginning.
Yeah, it's so true that when you think about or when you are accommodating those who have disabilities, it's a benefit for everybody. It applies in the world of gaming, and it applies in so many places, like you said, in the workplace with the desk and the desk that elevate, and you can adjust them to certain heights. And it made me think of restaurants and tables, where the table is supposed to be a certain number of inches off the ground, but that isn't always accommodating for someone in a wheelchair, because a lot of times our cushions that we sit on put us at a higher level, so we can't slide right under the table and sit in our chairs. Sit in our chairs at a dining table in a restaurant. So it's
Now, mind
something
you,
that.
Arthur, I want to
Uh-huh.
put something about that right quick if I can. See,
Uh-huh.
I'm 6'6", and I have probably about a 4 or 5 inch cushion. So imagine me
Right.
getting under a table. So I definitely get what you're talking about that restaurant.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's, and of course they're not breaking the law because the table meets the whatever 32-inch requirement or something. Same thing with door frames. A lot of times there are people who have extra things on their wheelchair. So although the door frame meets the ADA standard requirement of being a certain width, we need that extra, we need that extra 2 inches just to fit. Uh, Using myself as an example, my wheelchair wheels on my chair, they kind of go out. They kind of like go out on an angle at the bottom. So I can't fit in through certain door frames because my wheels are the way they are splayed out. It just makes my chair a little wider. So uh, it does. And same thing with ramps. If you put a ramp in, everybody can use a ramp. Everybody can use a ramp. Not everybody can walk up steps. So it's just in improving things and accommodating people with disabilities is something that is beneficial to all. And I love what you said, where you try to approach things and look at things from the standpoint of someone who has less ability than you do. Because for me, I walk with like braces and crutches, and I use a wheelchair, but um, it's difficult for me to walk around in some places and some stores and where there's floor that are like tile or something like that could be wet. It's very difficult for me to walk through those. And then on the opposite side of that, uh, places that have like old thick carpet is hard for me to wheel my wheelchair through that as well. So it's just having people at the table with disabilities to talk about these things and to include us in decisions that will impact us, just like they will impact the rest of the community that they are serving. And it's really great. I loved hearing how you said you can use different parts of your body to play the video games, and how, and just being a part of that conversation of how they can make things a little better, a little easier for those um, who have to use a stick or something like that they have to use to play. I interviewed, um, I forget how old he is. He's probably going into high school soon. His name is Kai. He has cerebral palsy, and he's a gamer. And he was, when I interviewed him, he was talking about starting his own YouTube channel about gaming with having cerebral palsy. And he was talking to me about it, and he was like, well, I don't know if I can do it. I said, of course you can do it. I said, you play video games, don't you? I said, you're a gamer, aren't you? And he said, yeah. He said, but like, I said, listen, you do it, you put it out there, the right people will see it, and you'll be great, and people will look at you and respect you for it, for figuring out how to play it with your diagnosis. He's like, all right, I guess I'll try it. And in the course of that conversation, I also committed to trying sled hockey with him. So so I don't know how. I told him I would try it if they were playing this year. I told him I would come out and try it at least once at almost 40 years old. So but yeah, so it's really great, again, having these conversations and being able to um interview people like yourself who are doing incredible things to me, because I have no my talent is not in that area again. um so I definitely look at you and see, see that as being amazing, the work that you're doing. So it's really great to hear all the whole process of how you got connected through your, your radio job, and your broadcasting job, and connecting and going to do interviews at these conventions, and turning that into something else, and something more.
I appreciate that. I really do. And I consider it it's an honor and a privilege, to be able to use my voice to be a part of it.
Mhm. Yeah. So to wrap up our conversation, I always like to ask this form of a question, and that is, what is most often misunderstood about your disability diagnosis, or about people with disabilities in general?
People not understanding the limitations,
Mm,
and also, I may make a lot of people mad with this, but like with ableism,
mhm,
I really don't have a problem with ableism, because like I said, I've been in the game for a long time, 28 years. I've been where people would not give us acknowledgement. I've been where people have not recognized us and our contributions. I've been where people would not even acknowledge us being there. So the fact that people now want to acknowledge us and say, hey, you're pretty cute being in that wheelchair. I really don't have a problem with that, because I came from a time when they didn't even give that to us. So I
mhm.
think some of the misconceptions out there when it comes to the community is that don't think that every one voice speaks for the community.
Right.
All of us have different diversity. All of us have, different views, just like all of us. You get
Mhm.
people in a room.
Yeah.
It's like not all Black people think the same. Not all white people think the same. Not all gay people think the same. Not all straight people think the same. All of us have our own individuality. So I don't like when people think that one person represents us.
Mhm.
We all represent each other, and whatever our voice is, that's how we feel about certain things. So, like I said, I may make some people mad, but I come from a time, 28 years in this game, where it was rough for us, really rough for us. And
Mhm.
the fact that we feel that one person speaks for us, like me, I don't speak for our whole community, I speak for myself, right?
Right.
I would just say that we all are diverse individuals and have our own individualities. and our own likes and dislikes, and we are people just like everyone else.
Yeah, and that is so true because we all bring our own life experiences to a situation. And where you and I are both people of color, but like you say, not all Black people think the same. So, and I have lived a different life than you have lived. So, where you might see something one way, I would see it a totally different way because I didn't have the same experience that you have had in your life. So, that I think that's a very great distinction to make. It reminded me of the talk about inspiration porn, where it's the people feel non-disabled people feel inspired by someone with a disability just because they have a disability. And uh, I've heard, and I've used the example myself of someone calling me saying, "Oh, you're so inspiring," just because I'm out grocery shopping or something like that, doing an everyday type of situation, going to the store to get food or whatever, just a daily activity that other people do that everybody does. And I heard a new friend of mine that I met on Clubhouse recently. His name is Nathan Todd. He said something to the effect of uh, he doesn't have a problem with someone saying that he's inspiring because he said that says something about him, like he's showing up in the world in such a way that these people are inspired by him. He said, and he's okay with that. I heard that. I said, oh my gosh, like that's so true. He said it makes him think, what is he doing to show up and to put out that energy in the world that someone can look at him and say, wow, I know you're just food shopping, but like that's pretty awesome and pretty inspiring.
I think about this too, Arthur. It's like, shouldn't we leave somebody in a better mood than what we receive them anyway?
Right.
So if they are inspired by us, let them be inspired. I'd rather them be inspired than be intimidated by me, than be scared of me, than
right.
not want to come and approach me. And it's like I think when we just view things from that prism, we have no idea what that person went through. That person might be a victim of domestic violence. That person may have just got a diagnosis of stage 4 cancer, or maybe
right.
a family member have, and they're just looking for some inspiration.
Right.
We are able to provide that inspiration. We should all embrace that with open arms. Like, if this is our contribution to the world, let's embrace it. Let's do it. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is and it was so funny because that's how I felt. But when I heard him say that, I was like, oh my gosh, like that's what I've been trying to articulate. Like it's because I'm like, I'm okay with it because I see it as if I'm out at the store going grocery shopping, I don't see any other person in a wheelchair that's grocery shopping. So to a stranger, that does look inspiring. Like, wow, he's out here by himself grocery shopping. Like I've never seen someone in a wheelchair grocery shopping before. So it's like, okay, like I understand it because I don't see too many people that look like me grocery shopping either. So just trying to see myself outside of myself, like from their point of view, it's like, okay, yeah, I can see where that might look heroic or inspiring or something like that. Like, okay, so yeah, that's really really great. And I think those are two, ableism and the inspiration porn that I mentioned. I think those are two really big topics, more recent in recent years, where as you said, people feel like one person who talks about either of those topics speaks for the broader community of people with disabilities. And it's like, no, that's not always true. And we all bring our own life experiences to a situation, and we have to be respected and honored for that, for our diverse backgrounds, our diverse upbringings and experiences. So thank you for mentioning that. I appreciate it. But this this has been a great conversation. I've really really enjoyed it. And California is one of my favorite places to visit. So when I am allowed to travel, and find myself back in Southern California, I will be sure to connect with you.
Absolutely. And King Arthur, you'll be able to knight me then, okay?
Yes, definitely. Yes, we have to do that. Oh wow. Yeah. So this has been a great conversation, and I will gladly say this out loud. My Zoom connection was not working for this interview. So we had some technical difficulties, but we worked through it and we made this happen today. So I'm very grateful for that, and grateful for your time today, and for the information and knowledge that you shared on the podcast today. And I know that the right people will hear this, and hopefully, find a way to be inspired. I'm hoping that someone is hearing this. One of the listeners is hearing this and finds a way to be inspired, and hearing your story of how they tried to count you out for certain things, but you kept with it, and just the determination that you showed to reach your goals of what you knew you were capable of doing. So I think that's a really big thing that that we need to stress and celebrate as well, because people, no matter what, if you have a disability or not, you will face challenges in life, and it's the fact of, yes, disappointment comes, and hurt comes with all of that, and with living and just in general. But to keep going, and to really strive to achieve your own goals, whatever they may be, I think is a great message for this episode, to encourage people to just keep going.
I appreciate that. Remember, teamwork makes the dream work.
That's right. So, Paul, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it. And I'll definitely be in touch. And I look forward to, like I said, meeting you in person, and hopefully collaborating with you again on some things in the future.
Sounds good. I would love to go look for Excalibur with you, King Arthur.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh, we have to. We're going to Vegas, everybody. Oh wow. But thank you so much. And I'll definitely be in touch with you soon.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks. Thank you for listening to this episode of the OurView Podcast. Leave us a review wherever you listen, and let us know what you liked about this episode. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and be sure to follow us on all social media platforms for more disability-related content at OurView for Life. That's OurView, the number 4, LIFE. If you listen to this episode on your phone, take a screenshot and post it to your Instagram or Facebook stories, and be sure to tag us. We thank you for listening, and take care.